Poderistas. I am super excited about this next one-on-one between actress and activist Eva Longoria and political power strategist Navarro. They're going to be discussing the honest realities of whether your vote counts. Guess what? They do. And more importantly, why it's not just the presidential elections we should be keeping an eye on if we truly want to uplift our lives and our communities.
I want to welcome all of the Poderistas to our summit, our Latinas Make a Difference summit. We're so excited to have this conversation with Ana Navarro, one of my dearest friends, my sister, my comadre, my confidant. And you know what? This topic that we're talking about today was something that Ana and I talk about all the time. And I thought, what if everybody had an Ana in their life that they could discuss these political topics with, that they could, just really ask questions. Every time I don't understand something, I call Ana, and Ana like breaks it down for me in like a Latino way. So I think what we're going to call this, Ana, is like, who cares if I vote? Why the hell do I have to vote? My vote doesn't matter. Like there's a million things that we could talk about in this topic. And so I want to welcome you and say a big thank you to you for doing our Latinas Make a Difference summit, because if anybody's made a difference in their industry, it's you.
Well, first of all, I'm so thrilled to be here. Thrilled to see you. Even though you're looking so much better than I am, which I'm a little resentful about, because nobody told me this was full hair and makeup event. That was not in my notes.
It's a Latina event. Anytime there's a Latina event, we should have our hoops on.
I did lives this last summer where you were coming out of the shower. And now here you are looking like Latina Barbie, so I'm a little pissed, but okay. I'll get over it because this is important. Listen, what you guys are doing is terrific. I watch a lot of your stuff that you put on Instagram
content, yeah.
Poderista, the content, and it's fun, it's instructive, it's insightful, it's like you feel like you're part of a family. So I think what you guys have done, what you ladies have done with Poderistas is absolutely terrific.
Thank you. We aim to inform and inspire. Because I think this of all people, there's so much misinformation out there. And we want to inform Latinas of like, not what to think, but hey, you guys should know about this. And you guys should form your opinion about this, whatever it is, whether it's the law in Texas that just passed, or whether it's the law in Mexico that just passed, you should know this. So we want to inform Latinas, and we want to inspire Latinas to take that information and really empower their lives. And I think, we've done a really good job at doing that because we have support of women like you. So thank you so much. I want to ask you, there's so many questions about civic engagement. You have a particularly interesting story of how you came to this country and kind of why you're even politically active. Can you share that with our Poderistas? Because your story is everybody thinks you're Cuban. I think you're Mexican, but you're not.
Well, I've told you this story before, but when I started getting on national TV, people who liked me would tweet me about my sexy Latina accent, and people who hated me would tell me, go eat another burrito and go back to Mexico. I said people serve burritos in Mexico, and and as if I was from Mexico. But of course, these ignorant people don't know that there's more than one country in Latin America, and it's not my burden to explain that to them. But what I didn't know was that I had an accent. Let me start by that. I mean, I'm from Miami. Have you heard Emilio Estefan? Have you heard Pitbull? Pitbull was born here. He doesn't even have an excuse to sound the way he does. So my story is like so many, so many, whether Nicaraguan or Cuban or from Central America or Mexican or Afghani, right? I fled Nicaragua. There was a communist revolution. There was a left-wing revolution. There was a civil war for 11 years. My family fled and we came to Miami like most who flee political volatility, thinking that it would soon pass and we would be back. And that has turned into, it's actually 41 years this week. Now that I think about it, I came to this country this week in 1980. And so I think that when you've gone through war, when you've watched it as a little kid in particular, it really scars you and marks you and just shapes you. And so you decide, okay, democracy matters. Being engaged matters. Being part of it matters. Being a decision maker in government, having your voice heard matters. And I think you go one of two ways. If you grow up with politics being such a part of your childhood, you either, go do macrame in a hippie commune and want nothing to do with it the rest of your life, which is fine. I still reserve my right to do that one day. Or you decide to get engaged and involved and informed and try to be part of something bigger and try to make a difference. And so I went that latter way. And part of it is growing up in Miami, which is such a political community and where we have wave after wave of immigrants fleeing something.
Yeah. You and I have campaigned, I don't even know how many presidential elections and how many presidents, but I've heard your story a million times. And I think people have they're disillusioned by, they have to have that story to be politically active. Like, I was a refugee and I came here and America gave me an opportunity and some people are like, I was born here. I kind of I'm ninth generation. I'm politically active, but there's a lot of Tejanos like me who are like, or a lot of Latinx, Hispanic, Latinos, whatever we're calling ourselves now.
Definitely are the part that the border crossed you.
Yeah, we never crossed a border. The border crossed us in Texas. There's a whole thing of well, why? Why do I even have to be engaged? Who cares? And I think your story is so inspiring because you go, oh, wow, you actually fled a place that you didn't have a voice. And some people don't have that motivation. Some people don't have that reason, and they feel that they need a big, strong reason like that. Why is it?
Honestly, I think that all you have to do is be a little aware of what's going on around you in the world, and even in our own country. But just look at the recent past. Look at the rights or lack thereof of the women in Afghanistan. Look at what they've gone through. Look at the desperation of people to flee that country and come to this country. And so it tells you that as imperfect as we may still be, and we have to work on our democracy and our branches of government, there's still something to the beacon of hope that is America across the country. And we have the right and privilege and responsibility of actually being American and living here. And that, I think that comes with something that we need to show up for.
Yeah. For elections, right. And it's so crazy. So there's so much that's been happening, obviously, in the world lately, in the news, in our country. I'm from Texas. Texas passed this horrible anti-reproductive rights bill against women. And a lot of people, even no matter what side of the aisle you fall on, they go, I hate Biden. Biden's responsible for this. Oh, Trump, I hate Trump. He's responsible for this. Obama was, I lost my student loans. Obama did that. People don't understand the levels of government and who's responsible for what. So if you look at something like that just happened in Texas, that's your state legislature. So sometimes people just vote every 4 years. They just vote in a general election. Can you talk about, it's not that hard to get educated on levels of government and what they're responsible for, because you should be engaged in your school board if you're interested in that. You should be engaged in your city council and vote if you're doing for that. We're having a governor recall right now here in California. People don't even know there's a recall for the governor. And if this governor gets recalled, the rollback of rights that's going to happen, voting rights, reproductive, everything. I mean, it's a landslide of stuff that would happen. So I think, how do people find this out? How do they know? How do they educate themselves? How do they progress?
You gotta work on it, right? You gotta put a little time and effort into it. It's not gonna fall on your lap. So, but today, I think that with the access we have to social media, to all sorts of journalistic outlets, it is easy. I mean, Eva, you know, in our lifetime, in order to read the Washington Post, you know, you had to subscribe to it and get it days later. Nowadays, we can get live coverage of stuff. We can, you know, we can do searches. We can follow. So look, I think it's very important to follow journalists who cover the actual beat. So, you know, not the people kind of like theorizing from, you know, a basement somewhere, but people who cover the actual beat. And I, like in my case, I'm from Miami. I follow people from the Miami Herald and the major newspapers here in South Florida. I follow people from the state beat in Florida, Tallahassee, and I follow people from on the national beat, and I follow people on the international beat, right? So I follow somebody like Christian Amanpour and many others on the international beats. Clarissa Ward, the journalist who was on the ground in Afghanistan. I follow journalists from CNN and from the New York Times, from the Washington Post, who are the White House correspondents or the Supreme Court correspondents. And I follow, you know, folks in Tallahassee, because you've got to know everything that's going on. And it's so easily digestible these days, right? Because, and it's also so timely. I mean, if you remember, you know, it used to be that today's news would be out in tomorrow's newspaper, and by the time you read it, it might already be old news. Today, because of social media, it's, you know, and the internet, it's right at our fingertips.
Yeah, but also I think the other side of that coin is because information is at our fingertips, there's a lot of misinformation. So, I mean, I think that, you know, that's where people are getting caught up in a bubble of regurgitation of conspiracy theories or lies or whatever that is. And it's like, you do have to break out of that bubble, even on both sides, by the way. Liberals have their bubble and conservative people have their bubble, and you kind of stay in that bubble. And so I like what you say is like really research. Like I love the BBC. I love BBC's reporting on the United States because they're kind of like, they have a dog in the race, right? So I follow a lot of BBC reporters, but you know, it's hard to find credible sources without getting caught up in that bubble. Because if you click on one, it kind of leads you down a rabbit hole to, if you like Ana Navarro, you'll probably like Eva Longoria.
And tequila.
It'll quickly take a left turn to alcohol, right?
You know, although, look, it's not my job or your job or our job or any of our jobs to tell somebody that they got to stop being misinformed. Look, if you want to believe that taking cattle dewormer instead of the vaccine is going to help you against COVID, girl, I can't help you. If you want to believe that Bill and Hillary Clinton are running a sex ring out of the basement of a pizza shop that doesn't have a basement, I can't help you, right? So I think we have a personal responsibility as intelligent consumers of news to seek out some sources of news that are credible. And that's on us, right? That's on us. So I think, you know, we have to make the conscious effort of, you know what, I'm not just going to listen to stuff that I agree with, that confirms, you know, I'm going to get informed. So are you going to consume news for the purpose of it confirming and affirming what you already believe and want to believe, or to be informed? That's an individual's choice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You are one of my favorite people in the world, but you are also a very proud Latina. Like you just, it's like tattooed on your chest in una bandera, so proud. And I think
your Spanish has gotten so good since you married, you know, since you married the Mexican guy. I gotta tell you, you're so invested. It has done wonders for your Spanish. Una bandera.
Thank you. Yes, una bandera. But I think, can you talk to the Latinas who are listening today about why should they vote? What in politics affects Latinas, specifically our community? Because I think a big misconception is that, nothing really affects me.
I can think of so many, everything affects us, right? We
Everything.
are part of this larger society. We're not living on our little Latino island somewhere, not affected by what the school board is doing regarding mask mandates, or what the legislature is doing regarding choice, or what the Supreme Court is deciding regarding dreamers. We're not in our little Latino island running the world. We're part of a very much larger society. Look, how does this affect us? Look around. We just, you were making reference to the Texas law. The Texas law is going to over proportionately. I mean, it feels like everything always over proportionately affects us in some way or another. If it affects white people, you just gotta better believe that whatever the hell it is, right, other than the stock market gains, is going to affect Latinos and Latinas even more. And so, if you look at this Texas law now, it's going to affect women of color a lot more. Why? Because of access to medical care. Because look, some rich, connected person can get a doctor to do just about anything and not have any repercussions. Some rich, connected person can get on a plane and fly to another state and make their medical choices. But if you don't have the same level of networking, of access, of resources, you're in trouble. Actually, I was thinking, Eva, I was with this Texas law, I was thinking somebody like, you're very involved, you're from Texas, of course, and you're very involved with the special needs community. If a special needs woman gets raped in Texas,
Right.
And doesn't find out until after 6 weeks, as most of us don't find out until after 6 weeks, she's got no options. She's got no options.
Yeah.
And I think it's a terrible circumstance, and those things actually happen. People think that we're making up these case scenarios. We're not. These things actually happen.
Yeah.
And so, that affects us. Go look at the names of the 13 U.S. servicemen and women who got killed in Afghanistan. Several of them, many of them, were Latinos. It affects us. The foreign policy affects us. Take a look at COVID and the numbers of COVID, and so that affects us. And I think, like you say, a lot of times we just think about elections every 4 years. We just finished a census, and there were states where there were congressional seats lost because of a handful of people who probably did not fill out their census forms. And so that's going to have a huge impact on the makeup of Congress, on the electoral votes for president. It's going to have a huge impact. I always assume things aren't just encapsulated. They always have greater effects, right? So how you vote in your state Senate race or your state legislature race is going to affect the bills that pass in your state legislature that are going to affect you. And so I think it's really important that we get engaged and vote in everything. And I'm gonna say one more thing. Look, as you know, I'm from Miami. I live in Miami, and this is a very politically active community that punches above its weight because they make themselves heard, because they participate, because they run for office, because they make noise. They're loud. They show up. They demonstrate. They give money. They call into radio shows. Those are all things that all of us can do. You don't have to give $2,700. You can give $2.07. Okay, it doesn't matter. But
Give your time.
But we need to aggregate as a community so that they respect us as a community.
Yeah. I agree. I agree 100%. Everybody keeps talking about we're the fastest growing demographic in the United States and we have this amount of buying power and our political power, but we don't have power unless it's aggregated, unless it comes together. And we're not a monolithic group. Of course, we're very factioned. You're different than I, and I'm different than her, and she's different than him. And I get it, but we have a lot more in common than you think. And referring back to the Texas, to the Texas anti-reproductive rights bill, 76% of Americans believe women should have the right to choose. So it shouldn't even be a dicey topic. It shouldn't even be a highly contested topic. I think it was like something like 68% of Americans believe in a guest worker program for immigrant labor and immigration reform. Why is that a hot topic if a majority of Americans want to fix it? It's these fringe groups that are very loud and very effective. So if that small group can make that big of a change in my life, imagine this huge group of Latinas who could be civically participating in something and making a change that makes their lives better, whether it's their pocketbook with taxes, the school that their child can go to, the healthcare that they receive. And so I echo what you're saying in that everything bumps up against government, everything. There's not one thing you can do in life that government did not touch in a day. You cannot, if you stay home in your house, the government will have affected you in the day. And so I think, to be involved and have a say in how that interaction happens is very important for Latinas.
Also, we need more Latinas running at every level, running the school boards, running the county commissions, running the city commissions, being part of the architectural boards and the cultural boards, and volunteering on committees, and showing up and getting engaged and networking, making connections, running for Congress, running for Senate. We need more Latinas to be part of the debate, of the national and local debate. It's I mean it's we have only one Latina in the U.S. Senate right now, right? Senator Cortez Masto. We need more. We need more Latinas showing up and saying, I can do this. I'm here. I'm going to put myself out there. It takes some guts.
Especially today, not only does it take guts and thick skin, it takes money. It is so hard to run. And but at the same time, my sister ran for councilwoman in the Austin area, and she won. And she's the quietest one of my family. And we were like, "You're doing what?" And she's so quiet and she's so smart. And she goes, "I just don't like what's happening in my community." And she ran without me or my help, or she just said, I want to be the change. I want to be the change. And
you realize that I know your family, you realize being the quietest one in your family is not a high bar, right?
She's
not a difficult thing to be.
But my point is, I think there's so many of us, even I do it. I go, a woman should take that job. Where is she? I'm going to vote for her. Where is she? I'm going to go find that woman. And sometimes you go, oh shit, that woman's me. I should be, and so it takes a lot of courage.
And it's, and we have to show up for those women, for those Latinas that go out there on a limb. We have to show up. So a lot of times there's hashtags and there's slogans. We've got her back. And then when she actually needs help and she needs somebody to have her back, nobody shows up. So it's, I think we have to understand how much it means for the community and for future generations. One of the, you talk about me being proudly Latina. And look, in Miami, we haven't quite gotten the memo informing us. We are a minority in this country. We think we are the establishment and we don't want to be labeled anything. And it wasn't until I started leaving Miami that I realized the difference that it made. And I was a fellow at the Institute of Politics at Harvard, and all of these Latino kids, Latino students, Latino and Latinas, would come and visit me in office hours and want advice, which was a little shocking to me because it's like, when the hell did I get so old that I'm actually giving advice to young people? And you realize at that point, and I know this happens to you, just how much seeing somebody that looks like you, that sounds like you, that has a similar story as you, on TV, on boards, with platforms, how much it means, which is why I think Poderistas is great, because you are amplifying that platform and speaking specifically to our hermanas. I think that's just terrific.
I didn't know you were a fellow at Harvard.
Don't even ask me how the hell that happened. I mean, my parents could have donated a wing, and I wouldn't have gotten into Harvard, but I did become a fellow, which was absolutely.
Oh my God. That's amazing. I got an award at Harvard, and I tweeted about it, and I was like, I'm so excited, Harvard. Thank you so much. And my assistant runs in and she goes, and I post it and she goes, you misspelled Harvard. I was like, but I did still get the award.
It was better award.
She's like, take it off. You misspelled Harvard.
How do you even misspell Harvard? It's not that
it auto-corrected. Apparently, it's not a word I use very much, so it auto-corrected to Havard, which I think is a bird. So, okay, last question, and we'll wrap it up. But we've kind of covered it a little bit, but I guess, how can a Latina know more or get involved politically? We've kind of covered the why. We've covered the why of why it's so important. Everything, really hits our community harder. It hits us disproportionately. Essential workers, Latinos are 33% of essential workers during COVID. Mm-hmm. Farm workers, your drivers, Uber drivers, restaurant workers. And I've been a longtime advocate of farm workers. And I said, we didn't need a pandemic to let us know that they're essential. Right. Farm workers have always been essential to the economy and livelihood of the United States.
It's amazing. It was amazing to me that during this entire pandemic, the food chain, the source of food never stopped. There was never a moment where there wasn't milk in the supermarket, where there wasn't. I mean, you can't buy a car. God help if you're trying to buy a dishwasher. But I can tell you that the milk and the meat and the fruits and the vegetables, those things never ever were never escasos. Or flaming hot Cheetos.
Yeah, flaming hot Cheetos, they were fine. They were fine. But what do you think? What are some parting words you want to tell Latinas and how they can be civically active? What can they do? We have midterms coming up. That's something, right? Be involved. Listen to that. We can also, I think Poderistas will be posting. We always post, but maybe posting some great credible news references. If people want to follow certain news outlets, it's easy and digestible. There's a great woman called Jessica Yellen who does news, not noise, and that's for women. She was a journalist for a long time, and she goes, I just want to, break down the news for women, not dumb it down, break it down, because there's so much noise and shit.
If you do that, which I think is a great idea, make sure you make it, local, state, national, international, but also there's some great Latina journalists out there and Latino journalists who we should be supporting and we should be amplifying and we should be reading and we should be very, very proud of, because it's hard. It's, it's hard to get to some of those places. I mean, it's hard to be a White House correspondent with a last name like Acosta, or or get to be on TV with name Sanchez or name Cabrera, and those things are happening. So we need to show up for our community, right? Because we can talk and talk and talk about how our numbers make a difference, but until and unless we actually do make a difference and they see our numbers, and when we show up to the box office, when we show up to for consumer goods, when we show up for advertisers, until we are a blip on the screen where we're making a real difference, they're not going to be thinking of us when they make the purchasing or the decisions or the appointing of people, or or who they put in front of the TV camera. But look, I think you start local and you start close to home. So I
Mm.
think one of the first things we all need to do is make sure that everybody in our circle, everybody in our family, everybody, our husbands, our boyfriends, our one night stands, everybody needs to be registered to vote, right?
Yeah.
Because that matters. People who are running campaigns look at how many, can look at the demographics and know how many Latinos are registered to vote. We need to do things like fill out the census forms. It's not going to be for another 9 years, but we need to think about it. We need to care about what's going on in our own communities. I mean, my God, Eva, think about the climate consequences and what that has meant to Latinos in places like Queens and the Bronx and New Jersey. Miami and the wildfires in California. I mean,
yeah.
right, it's crazy. So you've got to care about these issues, because COVID, climate change, guns, they don't care whether you care or not. They will affect you regardless of what party you are, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your age, regardless of anything. It will come and affect you. So it's, you can't live you can't be bubble girl like in Seinfeld and live wrapped up in cellophane.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, that people have to realize we live in a global community now. You don't just live in Miami. I don't just live in LA. Like, we live in a global community. If you think what's happening in Afghanistan doesn't affect us, you're wrong. If you think what's happening in Mexico, with their laws, or Central America, you're wrong. Everything's going to affect us eventually. And so I think it's important. I think that's a really good answer of, like, first you got to care. I mean, first and foremost, care about what's happening right in front of you. Sometimes the task seems so big. And I think for Latinas, we're like, I have to have a political PhD to go into the voting booth. You don't. But do you have a little homework to do? Yes, you should absolutely do that homework. And I also think that there are so many voter restriction laws passing all over the country. So not only are you going to have to register to vote and know when that deadline is and know what you need for that, they probably moved your polling place. They probably closed a polling place near you if you're a person of color. They probably require 2 forms of ID because God knows why. They probably need you probably need to gas up because you're going to have to drive 2 hours now. Like, there's a lot that's going to be placed on our communities. So is there going to be effort? Yes. And be prepared for it. Be prepared.
If anybody who's watching this has access to the internet, go online and check your voter registration. How do I register to vote in my state? In most of the, every state has a website, elections.com, and you can check the status of your voter registration. You can check your status and you can know it beforehand, know the rules of when you have to register by, when you have to solicit, request an absentee ballot by, because in some states you've got to proactively solicit them. But you said something that I think is so important. You've got to care. First, you've got to care. And I think that for the Latino community, for Latinas in particular, who are such matriarchs of the family, caring is not optional. Maybe there will come a day when, we can be laissez-faire and not give a shit about what's going on in the world around us. But that day is not today. Because like we said before, everything affects us disproportionately. And so caring right now, sorry, ladies, but caring comes with, putting on lipstick and brushing your teeth. You've got to care. Our community needs you to care. We need to care collectively for each other. There's things in this world you've got to do for yourself and for others. Getting a vaccine, you do for yourself and for others. You do it for the ones that can't get a vaccine, right? Like children under 12. I mean, you're vaccinated for your son, Santiago.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to vote for those who can't vote, for the undocumented immigrants, for the dreamers, for the children who are too young to vote, but whose lives are affected by the laws that happen, by the decisions made by the Supreme Court and by the federal courts, by the local courts. So we've got to show up for each other. We've got to care. Tenemos que nos tiene que importar lo que pasa en esta vida y lo que pasa en este país y lo que pasa con nuestro gobierno. It's not an option.
Yeah, not an option. So to close this segment of Who Cares If I Vote, we care. We care. Ana cares if you vote. I care if you vote. An entire community cares if you vote. So I hope this was informative to all the Latinas watching. I am so happy to be able to speak with you, Ana. Thank you so much for jumping on and
miss seeing you in person. So great.
I miss you too. I miss you too. So for everybody watching, literally go right now, go check if you're registered to vote for the midterms. If you live in California, there's a recall election. If you're in Texas, there's a lot of stuff happening there. Florida, there's always stuff happening in Florida. Just pay attention and care. Thank you, Ana. Thank you for this conversation. I love you. Te quiero mucho.
Besito.